All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I need a motion to adopt the agenda with one change of the order. We're going to move items 17A to 12B.
So moved.
Moved, supported. All those in favor say aye. Oh, vote, please vote, yeah, please vote. Motion passes. Item 4 is approval of the minutes. Need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Hall, supported by Commissioner Kraft. Any discussion? Please vote. Thank you. Minutes are approved. Item number 5 is public participation. Is anyone from the public that wish to be heard? Anyone from the public that wish to be heard? Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Sherry Bartram. I am the director.
Sherry, I'm sorry, could you press the button? There's a red.
This button?
Yeah, you go.
The whole time?
No, just have to press it once when you turn red on us. There you go.
Okay.
Now we can hear you.
All right. Thank you. My name is Sherry Bartram. I'm the Sarisa Director, 18961 Common Road in Roseville. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I am here to urge you to support the 42-cent surcharge for 911. I can proudly say that I am also a Macomb County resident, and we have multiple phones in our family. Within the next few years, not so very long, I anticipate that we'll have multiple more phones in our family because we have children that very soon will be wanting their own phone. They actually want them now, but they're only 10 and 8. The 42 cents represents technology, among other things, that will be used in everyday lives within those next few years. But we can't wait for those next few years to act. If we wait to put in place the very basics needed to meet the technology of Next Generation 911, and Next Generation 911 is it kind of became a catchphrase for a lot of things, but it represents technology and services that 911 provide for our citizens. If we wait those next few years, we will already be further behind than we already are. And I'm really proud to be here representing Macomb County as one of the dispatch centers. We have great examples in our county of the dispatch centers that are making a difference. We have Contact that you're familiar with that have recently used their maps to help help the officers after a crime catch the perpetrator. And we have Sarisa that used cell phone technology to help locate a kidnapping victim and bring her safely home. But the media has given us multiple examples of how we are not as advanced in our technology as even Uber or some of the other apps that you may be familiar with that can provide detailed second-by-second updates of callers' location to others. If you're familiar with any of those apps that you may even use, Life 360, you can watch your loved one drive home or a family member. We can't do that in 911. And upgrading our current equipment to be ready for Next Generation 911 will help us, but it comes at an expense that, while I cannot speak for all centers, I can tell you that one of the centers in Macomb County contacted me with sticker shock at the expense of it, because it's expensive to get our equipment that we have in our centers ready. I also want to point out that Next Generation, unfortunately, is not going to be a one-time upgrade. Technological advancements are made every day. If you carry a cell phone, do most of you carry cell phones? Right? So you know that to be true. The minute you buy it, the next month they've already come out with an upgrade. We need to be ready to serve the public in whatever manner they can contact us and provide them with the best service possible. And we need to be able to find them when they call with as close of a proximity as possible with the technology available. And I want to see Macomb County ready to do that. And the 42 cents funding will help our centers be ready for that. We need to be able to do that with seamless technology of the upgrades available to us. And that 42 cents, although it may seem like a lot, it may seem like a tax, it's just critical funding for our dispatch centers to help them be ready. And so I'm just urging you, as a citizen and as a dispatch director, to pass that funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Please come to the podium. You have 5 minutes. State your name and address for the record.
Is this still on? Good afternoon. My name is Chris Martin, Macomb County resident. My address 41625 Ryan Road. I stand here today in front of you not only as the fire chief of the city of Sterling Heights, but also as the president of Macomb County Fire Chiefs in support of the 42-cent surcharge. You know, the city of Sterling Heights several years ago moved to ComTech. One of the reasons was because we were behind in the technology that would have needed for our own dispatch center, because it is just millions and millions of dollars to get that job right. And ComTech has served us well, but I would like ComTech to be able to stay on the cutting edge of technology into the future. So this is for all PSAPs that represent all fire departments in the county. One of the biggest problems we have is finding people when they call 911, because nobody has a landline anymore except I do, so I'll pay that 42 cents as well. But that's part of the technology. Just one part of the technology is to be able to find people when they call 911 and hone in on exactly where they're at in any type of emergency they're having. So the county fire chiefs is in support of this, because it's about technology and it's about personnel, and this is about keeping us on the cutting edge. You know, we're one of the very few that don't charge this surcharge, so that should tell you something. It's because we need to have this fund to keep up in the technology that's coming forward. So the Macomb County Fire Chiefs is in support of this 100%, and have a good evening, or a good day.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Good evening, Frank Kuzmano, 16188 Jenny Drive. I'm here today to tell you that in the pursuit of truth, there's some issues that have occurred. Repeatedly in Maynard versus Macomb County, case number 2018-7679, the attorney for Eric Smith, the prosecutor, in reference to the forfeiture accounts, repeatedly represented that all records that we have regarding the forfeiture cards have been turned over. I don't mean to embarrass him. He's here today with Joshua Van Lan. On January 30th, well, what was actually turned over, as you may recall, was just 83 pages of bank statements. On January 30th, 2019, Mr. Smith himself appeared before this board. He was not asked to take an oath. He stated that he looked forward to the forensic audit so we can get our receipts together. We turned everything over to Steve Spiegel for 2 years' worth for the audit. This simply was not true. The response from a recent FOIA lawsuit indicates that Steve Spiegel received nothing other than those bank statements, which have already been referenced. Now, at that same meeting, January 30, 2019, Commissioner Drulette asked about the $20,000 checks to American Express and other checks in even amounts. That backup data was sought in a February 4th, 2019 FOIA request about what Mr. Smith was referencing when he presented this information to this board. I'm here also to tell you that there's been a resolution of the second lawsuit so that no one can blame Ms. Noak or Mr. Maynard or anyone in the Republican Party of costing money to the county. Law enforcement we're stepping out of the way, allow law enforcement officials to do their work and conduct their investigation. So you're here today to vote for attorneys, to hire an attorney to defend Mr. Smith on this civil lawsuit. And I'm here to tell you that that lawsuit is wrapped up. We're just going to put a bow on it, and then hopefully the truth will come out exactly what was going on with these expenditures of public funds. I want to just dispel one other issue for purposes of educating the board. FOIA says in Section 10 of the Act, in an action commenced under subsection 1B, if the court determines a public record is not exempt from disclosure, it shall order the public body to cease withholding or to produce all or a portion of the public record wrongfully withheld, and this is the important part, regardless of the location of the public record. So if these are public records, these receipts, these statements, and other things which generated the checks to pay them, then an action by anyone, Ms. Noak or Mr. Maynard or anyone else who files a FOIA request, which is denied or not answered or responded to properly, can file an action and then hence seek attorney's fees and costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Please step forward. And
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Pizer. My business address is 450 West 4th Street, Royal Oak, Michigan. I am the counsel that was retained to represent Mr. Smith in the third litigation that was just discussed by Mr. Cusimano. What Mr. Cusimano said with respect to the action being totally resolved is not entirely true. There was an order entered this morning that just dismisses 1 of 3 counts. 2 other counts are pending. Documents are being prepared to determine whether or not we can reach a resolution as it relates to the relating counts. Part of this involves what has just recently been disclosed to the media with respect to the Michigan State Police investigation, and as represented by corporate counsel in attendance on the case this morning, they're indicating that the state police asked them to dismiss their cross-claim and let their investigation proceed forward. So it was on that basis that the Corporation Counsel has decided to dismiss the cross-claim against Mr. Smith. We have 2 open issues. We're going to address those issues through paperwork. The dismissals so far have been without prejudice, and for those of you not well-versed in the language of the law, that means that there is an opportunity to refile the case. So as far as a final resolution, I respectfully disagree with that. If you have questions for me, I'd be happy to answer that.
we don't take questions in this format, so just your statement.
First time before your board.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll be discussing this item on a future agenda item, sir. 13A.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Good afternoon, everyone. Deputy Chief Stuart McIntosh, Clinton Township Fire Department. I live at 20609 Sherwood in Macomb Township. I'm here to speak in support of the 42-cent tax per month for the 911 system. The only experience I can give you is what our department has had in the past 18 months with Comtech. We originally dispatched ourselves, which was an inefficient operation that was realized during the transfer over to Comtech. The response times, getting our information and getting our rigs out to the road have been cut in half. We went from roughly a minute and 10 seconds down to 30 to 45 seconds time saved with the technology that is currently available to us through Comtech. Where we lack currently is, like Chief Martin had spoke to, are the 911 calls that don't know where they are in our area, which is a quite frequent occurrence. This type of technology supported would help us increase or reduce our response times and make us become more efficient in the system that we have. It would also help Sarisa and the northern counties improve their technology and allow us as a county to respond better to the people that need us most. From our experience, our upgrade was incredible to what we were at, and this is only on the backside of thinking we were doing it the best we could and then stepping up to the next level. This type of tax, I believe, is global. It affects everyone the same, whether you are in a high income or a low income level. This is something that benefits us all. And I speak in support of it because very seldom is there a tax that everyone benefits from. And I view this as more of an insurance policy for the people that need it the most. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard under public participation? Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Item 6 is appointment interviews. Item A, planning economic development, executive appointment with the board concurrence, effective April 15th for Vicki Rad. Mr. Delden?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. In your packet today is a recommendation from County Executive Hackle asking that you appoint Ms. Vicki Rad to the vacant position of Director of Planning and Economic Development. Included in that recommendation is Ms. Rad's resume and other credentials and a position description of the job. Vicki's been with the county for over 6 years, all in planning and economic development, and came to us 6 years ago with a wealth of background in this field. So without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Rad up here to address the board and then have the opportunity for you to ask her any questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to address the Board of Commissioners today. As mentioned, I've been with the county for over 6 years. When I look at the longevity of me touching economic development, it does span over 10 years. There was a little stint I did in Detroit, but knowing my heart's here in Macomb County, when I look at this position, it really does give me the opportunity to really help strengthen and put some strategy behind what we're doing for Macomb County, not just today, but in the future. And so, I do look at this as a great opportunity, not just for me, but I'm very fortunate to have a great staff that really does make this happen. And I'm very thankful for all the mentors who actually brought me up to this position today to say, move forward, it's time for you to grow, Vicki. So thank you. I can take any questions.
Are there any questions? Let's see. Yeah, I'm okay. Any questions? Yeah, please.
Congratulations to your new post, and I'm sure we're going to get approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chairman Smith.
Thank you. Early congratulations, Vicki. Just wondering if you had anything that you wanted to tell us on any plans that you had to move planning and economic development further into the future. I know JP did a great job with that, and I'm sure that you'll continue. Anything on the burner right now you can?
Yeah, if I can talk a little bit about my background. Actually, my undergrad is in computer information systems. And so my time here has been really pushing technology, saying the county really needs to not only embrace where the technology is going, but where it's heading. And so some of the initiatives that we've got in planning and economic development are looking at the tools that are out there, not just for workforce development, but where our companies are going, where the technology is heading, but how do we get ahead of it, and how do we grow and have this new face to Macomb County where it is really, truly technology-driven, which ultimately ends into economic prosperity when we look at the type of job creation, the type of companies that are choosing to invest here, the equipment that they bring, but also how do we market ourselves as such.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone's been out in the field quite a bit. I see you all over the county, especially in dealing with the military side of things, but you're also very diverse in your knowledge of all parts of the county, and that gives me a great reassurance that you're doing an outstanding job. It's a natural progression for you. I'm glad you're here and you're going to stay with us here in Macomb County. And oftentimes we lose people in this county because, for a variety of reasons. We're glad you've chose to stay with us and grow with us. It's a great place, and I'm looking forward to working with you for many years. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, this item will go to the full board, where it'll be up for hot debate, and hopefully, if you keep your fingers crossed, you'll probably cross the finish line.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you. Next item is item 6B. This is the Macomb Zoological Authority appointment. Diane Banks is the person recommended by the Executive's Office for an appointment. I don't believe she's here today, but please step forward and say hello.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the board and the Executive's Office for nominating me for this role. It's an honor to serve Macomb County. I'm a lifelong resident of the county, and I've worked my entire career working for the residents of Macomb County, starting out at the health department, and then as a program director for Leadership Macomb, and I was recently hired as the executive director for Advancing Macomb. So I look forward to this opportunity to continue to serve the county in a different way through the Zoo Authority, and I think it's a great experience. And I also believe strongly in our regional partnerships, which are important to continue through the zoo.
Very good. Thank you. I don't see any speakers. I have a question. What's on your agenda as you go into this position? Is there anything that you're curious about or would like to see done differently? What's your experience with the zoo to date?
Well, mostly just as someone going to the zoo. I've been a member for a long time. But also just through the regional partnerships, also Advancing Macomb and Advancing Macomb Board's very interested in the potential to bring the Great Lakes Nature Center to Macomb County. So that's something both through Advancing Macomb and in this role that I'd like to find out more information about and try to encourage Macomb County to be involved with that. On any other initiatives that they have the zoo to make sure that Macomb County is part of that.
I tried to hit a hot button over that. Getting that new center in our area would be great. So look forward to having your help with that. Commissioner Leonetti.
You had asked my question. Thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, thank you very much again. The same. Your appointment will be up with the full board of commissioners, and you're welcome to attend that meeting if you like.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll close that. Item 6. Item 7 is the organization plan by the executive. We have received, is there anything that the executive office would like to say? Receive, okay. All right, there's motion to move with full board. Is there support? Support. Any discussion?
Oh, there were, hold on. Sorry.
Right.
We're just going to acknowledge receipt and then hold a public hearing
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. So, we're going to schedule a public hearing for that, which is the next item, which will be on April 30th. But, yeah, we'll acknowledge receipt by Commissioner Leonetti.
Amend my motion. I acknowledge receipt of the plan.
Okay, and supported by Commissioner. Support. All those in favor, or please vote. Now we're going to schedule a public hearing on the organizational plan for April 30th, 2019.
It's not up.
Need a motion on that? No. Motion to schedule a public hearing. It's supported by Droulet. Any discussion on that item? Please vote.
I can't, the orange thing's not there.
Thank you very much. Item 8 is a resolution authorizing a monthly 911 surcharge of .42 cents. Director Wolver, would you like to come up and speak to this?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for having us here today. I have a few prepared words that I'd like to say. I know I've had conversations with the majority of you on this topic or small meetings with myself and Executive Hackle. I wanted to give you a little bit of background that we may have missed or may not have talked about in the first part of my presentation. What I wanted really to come through is to let you know that this recommendation or request is really being made on the entire county and all the PSAPs in the county. While this is obviously an item that benefits our county dispatch center, there's 8 other dispatch centers that were also consulted as part of this process, as well as the public safety agencies and other governmental units. This is not a decision that we came to easily or made in haste. We've had this conversation for several years since I've been here at the county, and then most directly, really within the past couple of years, did we start to make a concerted effort to really research this and see if this was a viable option for us to present to the board. The reason this comes to the board is because we have a county 911 plan that all the PSAPs fall under. So there is not an opportunity provided for law for individual PSAPs to seek this type of surcharge on their own. So anything that we do as a county. It falls under our county 911 plan, and that county 911 plan falls under the purview of the Board of Commissioners. Not only did we enlist assistance on looking at this project from our dispatch center, public safety personnel, but as you can see here today, specifically with ComTech, we also utilized our experts from the Sheriff's Office, Emergency Management, IT, Planning, and the Finance Department as well. We wanted to make sure that we all had a comprehensive understanding of this initiative. As has been talked about before, the State Act, Public Act 51, most recently revised last year in 2018, allows for a surcharge up to 42 cents via the Board of Commissioner resolution. Anything above 42 cents and up to the maximum of $3 would need to go to a voter approval for those amounts. The amount of 42 cents that we chose was based on a number of factors that we looked at. And again, it's not just based on our own dispatch center. All of the dispatch centers in the county are at all various levels of capabilities. You have some that may be more advanced, such as ComTech is and/or Sarisa, but then you also have some smaller dispatch centers in the county that, quite frankly, are struggling. And again, we know that because we're in the field. We deal with them from all different aspects of that. And some are really having issues with funding their dispatch centers, not only currently, but also looking into the future. No matter what our current capabilities, though, we're all trying to keep up with our knowledge of the new and emerging technologies and equipment that are out there, as well as hiring staff and training our staff. While ComTech is a model center, and some may think and have said might be overkill, we do not even employ the latest technologies and equipment that are out there. We haven't had the capability to be able to do that at this time. We also take great care in what we choose. Just because there's the latest and greatest out there, we don't necessarily jump on that bandwagon. We're lucky that we have subject matter experts that are employed by the county that we can utilize when we look at different equipment and technology that is out there to employ. So we do take care with that and just don't make rash decisions or recommendations. Probably one of the greatest things we've been able to do at ComTech because of how that was formulated was because we did consolidate. And we were able to, being a larger dispatch center, take advantage of some of the regional grant funds that were out there for centers. And we were also able to employ technologies that differing departments had and bring them into one center. Not everyone is able to do that either on a local level. But that's really where I think our increases have been made at ComTech, is we've been able to pull in cameras that the road department had. And now it's not just the road department using those cameras. It's now dispatch that gets to use those camera systems. It's emergency management that can use those systems. We're now starting to look at being able to offer those services to the local jurisdictions and other dispatch centers. So again, we're very aware of sharing our services, sharing our technology, and trying to provide that across the county board and to other systems. We can't always do that, though, and obviously we can't always sustain that through funds that we receive through the county. One of the previous speakers, Sherry Bartram, commented, one of the biggest questions we do get, and I'm sure you've seen it on TV as well in the comments, when you look at the social media and the communication systems that are out there, all of us, if we have cell phones and you use social media, you can instantaneously let people know where you are. You can let them know what you're doing. You can share photos and you can share videos with one another within seconds. None of that can we do within our dispatch centers. We're getting better at it for some of us with the location services. But the ability to employ next-gen technology, some of it that is here today and some of it that is forthcoming, such as sharing of videos and receiving those or photos into the dispatch center, we can't do. Nor can we obviously then send those out People see that as critical and life-saving information that we can use for responses. And not only is it important to start getting that real-time information into the dispatchers to have that information, but in turn, we need to get that out to the first responders so they have an idea of exactly what is going on. They don't have to imagine what is going on or hear that through second or third parties. They can actually see that for themselves. And unfortunately, we can't employ that at this time. Some technology, too, we have been able to employ. Again, a lot of that has happened at Comtech and Sarisa, and much of that has to do because we also have larger staff and more expertise. But we also try to look at free technology that is out there. So both of our centers have employed Smart 911. Hopefully you've seen that. Hopefully you're signed up for Smart 911. That allows residents and businesses to go online, enter their information. They can give information that's collected in a database that tells all about their home, all about their business. When they call 911, that screen pops up on our dispatch screens. Dispatchers are able to see that information instantaneously. It can take in medical information that's been entered, and they can see that without ever having to ask the person what's going on. Sarisa, I believe, a few months ago, and then most recently our dispatch center partnered with Rapid SOS, that is part of location services. That's a free service that we're implementing. Again, that gives very good location services to us. But as we're doing this, we're multiplying the number of services that we use in the dispatch center. So not only do we have call-taking software from all of our phone vendors that we have that help to employ that, we now have to add another layer on and another vendor. And for those of you that have seen Comtech, some of our dispatch stations have 8 different monitors for all of the various information that's coming in there. And some of that we have to duplicate because some of the other systems we just can't afford to employ their location services. Some of the vendors don't have the technology yet that we need, and unfortunately there's just not one vendor that employs everything. So we really have to be careful with what we do and what we bring into the center and vet that. Again, all of us collectively reviewed and researched this on a countywide level and the services that we provide, and knowing where we are now and where we're lacking now, and also where we need to go into the future. We believe that the local surcharge mechanism is a viable option to provide individual or additional revenue to all of our government entities. We understand that local governments continue to struggle with the lack of funds. There's competing priorities, it seems, every day on what to fund with the dollars that we have. But we believe by utilizing this funding source, we're providing that additional revenue, and that the benefits outweigh the charge. In getting to your packet, again, I believe most of this information you have seen. But if you look at, if my page numbering is correct on the agenda and in the packet, page 48 shows the breakdown of various surcharge amounts and the revenue to the PSAPs in the county. We outlaid this format just with some different surcharge amounts, whether it be 19 cents, 25 cents, 42 cents that we're recommending, all the way up to the $3 maximum surcharge, and we outline what each individual PSAP in the county would receive based on our estimates. On pages 49 through 55, we tried to show you a breakdown of all the various surcharges throughout the state and different formats that they have. Again, you can see there's a mixture. There's some that are, quite a few that are up to that $3 surcharge, and then some that are at, some lower amounts as well. And we are the only county in the state that does not utilize either this mechanism for a 911 funding source or a local separate millage that goes directly to 911 as well. So every county in the state either has one or the other, and some utilize both mechanisms, and they have the surcharge plus the millage. On pages 56 through 57, that shows you the allowable and unallowable costs. Again, all this money has to stay within the dispatch function, so we have a list that we follow to date with the state funding that we receive. Those same rules we will abide by if we were to receive and collect the local county surcharge. I also included on pages 58 through 66 is just a copy of the most recent state act of 2018. When you get to pages 67 through 70, those are copies specifically that relate to the county's portion of those funds and potentially what we're looking to do with those funds if we receive them. Essentially, our current budget is estimated at roughly $7.7 million. Our current needs to date are 9 positions that we need, whether we receive this funding or not. We're going to be asking for those nine positions. Some of those positions are new. We need to right-size the dispatch center with dispatch staff. But currently, we also have some positions right now that are being shared throughout the county, such as within GIS. When we started this project with GIS and IT, we had internal current employees that started helping out. They pitched in where they could, bring their expertise to the table. And now essentially, because of how we've developed within Comtech, how we've grown with some of our partners, and again, our new technology and equipment that's come out, these have turned into full-time positions that now are either taking services away from us, as they also have to share their services with other county departments. We would like those positions dedicated to the dispatch and Comtech. We also realize that we're going to have a great need for our capital costs in the future. And right now, we do not have any funding set aside within capital costs to replace the equipment that is currently at Comtech. Again, the majority of equipment that went into Comtech and the dispatch center came from outside funding sources, so we took advantage of the grant funding when we could. I've talked about it before for various reasons. That grant funding just doesn't exist today. So we're not able to take advantage of that to employ new technologies, or certainly when we need to replace our existing equipment in the next 10 to 15 years. So we want to start a process for collecting and setting aside those funds now so that they're available when that time comes, and that we don't have to come back to the board in one lump sum. Then on pages 71 through 87, you have various support letters and resolutions. And then the last page in your packet on page 88 is our draft county resolution. I drafted that resolution. There's no template for that from the state. I looked at various other counties, chose some language, and then John Shapka from Corp Counsel reviewed it as well and said that it worked for the purposes of the local surcharge. With that, I'll take any questions that you have. Again, we have county staff that's here as well for any areas that pertain to them.
Okay. Of the 9 PSAPs we have in the county, you explained how we would use our allocation of the funding that would come from the tax on the phones. But do we know what the other communities will use that funding for? Because like each community got it broken down, like Shelby Township would receive $300,000, Centerline would receive $32,000. How do they intend to use the money? You explained in detail what you would do with our PSAP, but what about the others? How will they use that money?
I believe
are you in a position to speak for them?
Well, I believe the majority of them in general conversations and, with what Sherry Bartram said earlier are in the same position as us. Majority of it's going to be equipment and technology for those other centers, and then some may be used for personnel.
Are you saying that our center over that we've just built is out of date?
I'd say in some cases, yes, just because the technology changes that rapidly. and to try and keep up with that and plan for that, and especially plan for when our equipment does actually become outdated and we physically at end of life, or looking at there's no more software upgrades is going to be in the next 10 to 15 years. So a portion of our money will be saved year over year so that when that time comes, we'll be able to go to that fund and not need to come back to the board and say we need X amount of dollars to replace this equipment.
How have we been able to manage to date without having this tax?
Essentially through grant funding, or we did without. And that's why when I mention, other dispatch centers within the county that aren't as advanced, especially some of the small ones, they struggle. And, quite frankly, some of their equipment is severely out of date.
Wouldn't it make sense for them to throw in with us? They're trying to save money for their communities. Wouldn't it make sense to throw in with the county and come together with us rather than looking to raise more taxes to fund something that is, doesn't make sense for their own local community based on a cost basis?
Potentially it could, but I couldn't actually comment on that, without seeing their figures and what that means for them individually. Okay. What they'd have to give up or some services they'd still have to provide.
Thank you for the detailed presentation. Information as we come to expect from you. Give us complete information, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Ha.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Vicki, for the detailed presentation. My first question was going to be how you arrived at the 42 cents, but you had answered that very thoroughly. My second statement was you skipped over page 41 in your presentation, which I think is as equally as important, if not more so, than any other. Chairman Brown touched on it, on how the amounts get broken down by community. I think what's critically important is the yearly cost per person.
Oh, thank you.
$3.78. We're talking about enhancing life-saving technology for $3.78 per person. I know we have our fire chiefs, we have our sheriffs, we have the local municipalities, we have Sarisa in the audience, all supporting this initiative. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, what the local communities did with Sarisa out in Roseville was sat down with the city managers, the chiefs, and came up with the most cost-effective way. And I have talked to our mayor and our city manager. They plan on doing the same thing if this passes, on how to spend the monies wisely to enhance the technology to save lives. So they are looking at various options on how to successfully use the funding if it becomes available. So thank you for asking that question. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. On the same page 41, was the yearly cost per device added after our meeting?
Yes, it was, based on comments, yes.
Okay.
So, yes.
So the 378, when they say per person, just so everybody knows, that also is for like the 6-month-old person that doesn't have a cell phone.
Correct.
504 is the cost per each cell phone. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. I was, and I probably already asked these, but it's been a while since we met. On pages 60 and 61. So page 60, we've got projected needs, new position requests, and proposed dispatch fund budget. Is this proposed now approved?
No.
Okay. So the new position requests here, are those new position requests not associated with the requests that will be coming as a result of this?
I guess I'll say it this way, we factored them into the budget so you can see what our proposed budgets would look like. But our position is that the 9 new positions and the funding needed for the capital improvement costs will be part of our 2020 budget presentations.
Okay, well, the reason I was asking is because you have new position requests at 306,615. But on the next page, the 9 positions equate to 613,230. That's what I was trying to figure out what that column was trying to say.
That would be because the funding would be implemented in July 1st of 2019. So our hope would be is that we could start to hire people starting somewhere around that time frame. So that's the portion of the amount that covers.
So you'll be seeking a budget amendment in July,
Correct.
is what you're
Sorry,
saying?
yes, correct.
Okay, all right, I got it then. Thank you.
So can I just add one item too that I know we talked about previously in the meetings, but I didn't mention today. Also within the county funding model, part of what our funding will do, as you can see, will end up actually bringing a savings back to the general fund, also of approximately $1.4 million. And I just didn't say that, so I know I said it previously, but before this meeting, just wanted to make that as a reminder as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for incorporating a lot of the information that I had asked you before, but I have some more questions that I'm going to need you to look into for me, if you would, please. To touch on what Commissioner Kleinfeld had asked, those 9 new positions were not budgeted for in 2019, correct? Or they were budgeted?
Correct. They were not. We were waiting for it to be part of this and what we were still working on.
So they weren't even asked for during the budget process?
No, not for 2019, no.
So this would be a 2020 ask if you were going to get those new employees, because you didn't ask it in 2019, correct?
Right. We'd either come back for a budget amendment for part of the year in 2019.
Okay.
For that, half that amount, and then going forward for 2020 and beyond.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about numbers so I can have an understanding for what was presented. The total of $5.04, does that include the minimum 19 cents that already is being charged?
No, that would be in addition to. The 19 cents went up to 25 cents last year.
Okay, so currently we're getting 25 cents.
We're getting less than that because the state holds back a portion of that funding.
Okay, we're getting $1,324,863 from the state of Michigan from 911 fees coming back today.
Roughly, yes, to date, for all 9 PSAPs in the county, yes.
Okay, now that's to ours, or is that divided up against all 9?
That's divided up.
Okay. So the new funds that's being asked goes to who? Split evenly for everybody?
Based on, if you look at the PSAP breakdown, again, I had it as page 48.
Yep.
That is how the funding will be divided between the 9 PSAPs for the money we collect for the surcharge being asked for today.
Okay. This is where I have to now ask the follow-up to, we have contracts with communities for these services that we're providing. Okay?
Correct, for the ones that fall under CompTech, yes.
Correct. Are we going to be raising our fees because it's costing us more? Forget any new technology, because you're saying that you can't do it for what you have now today. So does that mean we're not charging enough to these communities that we currently are doing work for?
In looking forward and into the future, yes, our plan is that we will have to right-size the contracts. And this funding will either, if it's approved, will help keep our costs down, because there's still a county portion that has to come, and keeps those contracts down.
Okay, I guess I understand we'll always have forget anybody else that we're working with. The county sheriff's department will always have our costs for our dispatch. That's a given. I understand that portion of it. I guess before the next meeting we have, whenever this is going to go, is that we would have to take a look at where you're currently at with the contracts that are signing and what it's costing you to do business. Because when I go through and I look at the pages that you had supplied for us, our page 37, your page 1, last paragraph, purpose, justification, it basically goes to continue tasks with more duties and responsibilities, escalating costs and decreasing funding sources. Well, those are contract that we have with communities as well. So I guess we need to take a look and see what actual costs, not more or less, but what it really costs us to do this work for these other communities, and being able to have that understanding of saying, okay, this is what it's going to have to be to cover the cost of providing this service, not just ourselves, but to them. Does that make sense when how I'm saying that? No?
Steve, do you want to talk to that? Because we already do that. And that's
The whole
what's in
thing.
the 7.7, sorry. Million, right? Sorry, I'll let Steve Adair talk to that.
So the current cost are on table A is 7.7 million. That's where we're tracking all of the current expenses.
I'm sorry, where's which page?
It's on page 62 in the agenda packet. Although I've heard some various page numbers, so I'm not sure if that's correct. It's table A on the top left-hand corner.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. Now, what are you referring to in 60?
I'm referring to the gross cost for the dispatch services, $7,761,205.
Okay.
That's just the expense side, so I would then call your attention to, let's see, table B. And the revenues that we raise from the contracts then are in the 2019 column, $4,408,315, and then I know the supplemental collection's in there now, but that first line, the base state minimum collection of 19 cents, that's $741,364. That gets you to approximately the funding difference that we're covering with the general fund at the bottom of that Schedule B, which is $2.1 million.
So the difference from the contract, the services we're providing, and the shortfall from that portion is how much?
So the difference there is going to be the 2.1 million that I just referenced, and then you add in the county PSAP funds that we're currently getting. So exclude the 819, it's the 741,364. It's those two numbers added together that were effectively what you're calling short. Now I won't necessarily call it short because there is a portion of the dispatch services that are county related. And I'll let Vicki, of course, speak more to the operating goal of the contracts, but there is a portion of our expenses that are legitimate county expenses the county should be covering that are in this proposal.
Okay, well, we would like to have that broken down so we can understand it. So if we're short under the contract portions of what we're doing, those communities then should be paying more for the contracts and being renegotiated than the next time. And then I'm looking at giving one out of the $3,364,143.30 that we generate, we're giving $1.4 million back. So we're really only generating $1,964,000 and change. Well, the difference in the contract, I'd like to see what that is, because maybe we don't need to raise the surcharge, and maybe the difference of these contract negotiations would cover that cost, and we don't have to go back to the users and raise these taxes. I guess I'd like to see what the true numbers are, not just the county's cost, but the actual communities that we're servicing. So I'd like to see that difference and see where it's at. I don't know if anybody else does, but that'd be very interesting.
Can you get that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Are you done, Commissioner? Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just piggybacking for a second on Commissioner Carabelli's question, the 42 cents would raise, 3.364 million approximately. And how much of that would the county then get of that amount? Some of that goes to the other PSAPs, but what dollar amount would go to the county?
Ours is roughly 1.6 million.
1.6 million. Okay. Thank you very much. The other comments I have are not necessarily questions for Ms. Wolber, who's done an excellent job with the presentation. I appreciate that. Thank you. But that 1.6 million is approximately 0.5% of our county budget of $300 million. And this has been described as critical and life-saving in the comments today. So I would challenge ourselves as a board and the administration to find 0.5% that they could cut or reduce in the existing budget to fund this, rather than raising taxes. Can we find 0.5% that we can cut, reduce, or save money someplace in the budget to provide this critical and life-saving technology. And I think that's a challenge because, in the last few years, we have seen the budget going up beyond what our revenues are. We continue to dip into the reserve funds. We continue to spend more and more. And there was a time when I was first elected on this board 20 years ago, and I haven't been here all 20 years, obviously, that the county used to brag. Every member of the board at that time would brag about how we were the lowest taxed county of all 83 counties in the state. So it's kind of odd to hear people say that every other county is taxing more. We should catch up with them. We need to find ways to add, tack on this tax too, so we can catch up. We are no longer the lowest taxed county. We have, through the last 20 years, our taxes have gone up and up for a number of different reasons, for a number of different purposes. But we can that transition is a little bit more stark when I come back and see, how much has changed in that period of time. I would hope that for 0.5% of the budget, 0.5%, is everything in that $300 million budget more important than this? We can't find 0.5%? I would challenge the county executive, our board, to work together to find a way to cut 0.5%, save the citizens of the state this taxes, keep taxes low, and keep in mind that our goal should not be catching up to the other counties that are charging more, but finding a way to do more with less. We had somebody come up here during public participation and talk about things like Uber and how they have better technology in some cases than the government does. Well, the reason Uber is successful and other technological innovations in the private sector is they're doing more with less than what the taxi services used to do. But it seems like technology always costs us more. We never end up saving. Say, oh, we need technology, but it always ends up costing. Can't we find 0.5% of the budget to fund this critical and life-saving need? Or is everything in the budget more important than this? 0.5%. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gillette. Commissioner Duje.
Thank you very much. Vicki, question. When we originally discussed Comtech, there were, I believe, 5 towers that were going to be built in the northern part of the county.
Correct. That was a separate project from Comtech.
Well,
it's part of our radio enhancement project.
Between the radio system up there and the backup system in Warren, how much benefit is the backup system in Warren going to get out of all this?
That the backup system would be part of the equipment and capital.
Is that going to get updated also along with the rest of this?
Yes, that was included.
For the 0.5%?
Yes, that was included in those projections.
That's what I needed to know. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld. All right, Commissioner Leonetti.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly, Vicki, I appreciate your presentation when we met at Comtech, along with Executive Hackle. I appreciate all the fire chiefs here, and I've looked at the different townships and cities that have passed resolutions urging us to pass this. I do my homework too as an elected representative of the people. And I've been going around and telling folks what our sheriff has said, that, we've got to fix our jail. Our jail, needs fixing. And how much? How much is it going to cost? I said, well, we're working on that right now. I've also said, hey, just to let you know, to some of my constituents, what do you think about a extra surcharge going to maybe cost you $5 at the most? I thought maybe $6 on your phone bill over the year. Well, what's that for? Why are we doing that? That's more money. What are you using that for? I've said, well, it's that great Comtech system we have. That's a wonderful system. It's state of the art. It's not free, and there's certainly more that we can do with it. I was very much impressed with the different, especially with the schools. I really enjoyed the fact that we're integrated with video cameras in all the schools and stuff like that. I think that's just a wonderful thing. Commissioner Carabelli's concerns, Commissioner Kleinfeld's concerns, I think Commissioner Brown's concerns, some of my constituents' concerns. Perhaps this isn't something we have to do right now. We could pass it next month perhaps, or even a month later. I know you'd like to get some stuff in line for July, but maybe we need a little bit more of a informational thing you know, I'm not saying necessarily take it to the people, because we could. We could take this at 43 cents, and it would go directly to the people on the ballot. But I think maybe a little bit more time and a little bit more information, maybe, a little bit more press on this, so that if we make the decision as a commission, or it eventually gets on the ballot to the people, that people feel comfortable about what we're getting. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we have a May 15th filing deadline for this year with the state of Michigan. So every year we have to file what our surcharge amount is, whether it's 0 or something else. So there's the time constraint on that, and that is to meet for the next funding period starting July 1st. So we do.
Time frame. There's a time frame.
There technically is for this year. Now, if you chose to delay it till later in the year, then we would base it on starting funding July 1st of 2020.
Let me think if there's anything else I wanted to add. And the number, the 42 cents is the maximum amount that we could pass without taking it to the people, as we say, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I would speak now.
I will in a minute. The 19 cents that the state presently charges phone bills, that's, so the chart on page 63, that brings in $741,000 a year. Is that right? The current charge the state already has on the phone bills? 63, I think. That's my page 63.
And mine are a little different. Yes, roughly, we haven't taken into account yet for 2019, so our best number is 2018, which was 646. But yeah, we're projecting around 741,000 for Comtech, for our dispatch
Just
center.
for us, just for our.
That's just for ours.
Just for ours, okay.
Right.
Isn't there a fee that's assessed on all homeowners' policies for emergency management services, dispatch services, the homeowners' policies?
Not that I'm aware of, and not that we receive.
Someone told me that, an insurance agent told me that there's a surcharge built into the homeowners' policies that go to help fund emergency services, but
You're paying the surcharge, the rest of us.
Well, we got a pond where I live at, so we don't have any far, but, all right, thank you, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. Excuse me, a couple of things. I can't get through a meeting without having a debate with Commissioner Gillette. The 0.5%, that's for the county. Unless you're willing to pay the difference for everybody else who gets 911 services that don't use Comtech, you're not factoring in the whole thing.
Could be as much as 1%.
It could be as much as 1%, but you also know that we're going to be having a request related to the number of people at the jail. We got a lot of big things coming, so just wanted to point that out. Having said that, this isn't an all or nothing for us. This isn't a contract where we can just vote it up or down. This is where there's from 0 to 42, just for commissioners in further debate when we bring it back up. But very quickly on what Commissioner Carabelli was saying. So you're saying we need 9 new positions at Comtech. And so when I look at that, I think, okay, we get our percentage for the county costs. But say we do the 42-cent increase. The communities that use us would be sharing in the cost of those 9 positions. So if you came to us for the 9 positions, you shouldn't be, if this went into effect, you should not have to come to us for the funding of all 9 positions. Do you see what I'm saying?
If the funding would be within this budget because of the surcharge that's being provided.
But right, but for years, and Commissioner Carabelli has asked every contract, does this pay for itself? Because what benefit does it do the county? And we've got some really tough things coming up. to contract with other entities where they save money, but we are losing money in those contracts, and he's asked it on every contract. This is the first time in all of these years that I've heard that we're operating at a loss on those. So what I was suggesting is, if we're going to increase that many positions, I would expect that a percentage of that, and a significant percentage, would be built into the new contracts, because I don't know what percentage of ComTech is other communities is using compared to Macomb County. Go ahead.
I guess I'll answer this way. If the surcharge doesn't go through, you're correct. We understand that with those 9 positions and the capital costs that we need for ComTech, that will be built into contracts.
But if the surcharge goes through, those communities who contract with us, it automatically comes to us, all 42 cents for those communities?
Correct.
Okay. That, I was saying it wrong. I apologize for that. But so it's, I got to work out between 0 and 42 cents. But I don't think, if we're dipping into the fund balance, which you're absolutely right that we're doing, and we need to get to a point where we're not doing that, how do we find this percentage if we can't even get to balancing what we have right now? So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Kleinfeld. And I don't see any other speakers on this subject right now. I think that we'll just move to receive and file this, and this will be back on this agenda next month for further, get the answers to the questions that have been asked. There are many questions asked here, and we'll bring those questions back, and we'll bring it up.
Mr. Chair, when is the next oversight meeting, just out of curiosity, do we know?
Let's see. No, he doesn't want, he was going to pass that. He's going to leave it here. We talked about, we'll leave it here. May 6th.
We have until the 15th, right?
Right. So I
Okay,
guess
is there a full board after the 6th? Sometime after, before the,
Not till the 16th, but we could add one if we need it.
okay. If I may, Mr.
Please,
Chair,
please.
I do think perhaps we should have a little bit of information passed on this thing. I really do. I think it's an important thing maybe that should get out to the public. I have not seen anything released in the media about it at all. I do think it's a wonderful thing. I think everybody knows what ComTech is, but I don't think everybody knows exactly what it can do and what it may be short on. So it would be my suggestion, as this is coming from the executive department, it would be my suggestion that a little bit of media attention be put on this request, and that would help certainly with me and some of my constituents. And if we can manage to accomplish that before May 15th, then maybe something can be done, hopefully this year. That's at least what I would think. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti. Need a motion to receive and file this. Moved by Commissioner Carabelli, supported by Commissioner Leonetti. Please vote. Commissioner, sorry.
Just, are we wanting to schedule that public hearing for the general public, or are we
No,
just going to call it? Okay.
Not right now. Thank you.
So the motion is to,
Just receive and file.
because it says here to authorize the search.
Well, that's,
Should be no motion language in there, so it's, yeah.
Thank you.
that's the pre-programmed device. Thank you. Okay, great. And the motion passed 13-0. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you for your information. All right. Item 10. Item 10A, 9A rather, closed session, discuss labor negotiations.
For that wage.
Need a motion? Moved by Commissioner Carabelli, supported by Commissioner Sauger. Any discussion? All those please vote. Motion passes. Item 11 is correspondence. 11A, need a motion to receive and file the correspondence.
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Kraft. Any discussion on that correspondence? Please vote. Thank you very much. Item 12, I need a motion to go into closed session to discuss the purpose of pending litigation with John Shack, Corporation Counsel, case Tudor Pamela versus County and Casey, Barkovic Timothy versus County and Smith, Valero Nowak versus County and Smith. Need a motion to go into executive session to discuss those subjects. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, hold on. And
to the chair to also include, just so the logistics are all in one closed session.
Yeah.
So they're having to come back.
yes, and closed session to discuss attorney-client memorandum from Pete Webster. Now, please vote. Thank you.
Hey, it's awesome.
Commissioners, we're back in the session. I need a 13A bypass request from outside counsel, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Okay, and just for clarification before my making this motion, we had not set a dollar amount or anything like that, so those of us that did the bypass felt there needed to be a motion anyway by the full board. Anyway, so I would make a motion to approve the agreement with Howard and Howard for the purposes of covering the litigation of Lisa Valerio, Noack, and County of Macomb, and the other litigation that arose from that. And that's it. And the agreement, we would be striking the last sentence of Section 2, and we would be striking Section 8.
Is there support for that? Commissioner Gillette supports. Okay, motion been made and supported. Any discussion?
Just a real quick clarification question. When we do a bypass, who are the individuals that are contacted in regard to the bypass? It would seem like it'd be a...
In that instance, it was Commissioner Carabelli, myself, and...
And it would, that way, because the charter designates, or we have an ordinance that designates...
I wasn't sure, since Finance Committee changed structure,
Yes.
nothing goes through my committee anymore, so I didn't know if I should be. But this particular bypass, we didn't have any information in front of us. So it was, to me, only temporary through Friday anyway.
Yes. Very good.
And then just one last question. So what we are doing is we are limiting the representation that was provided to those specific cases that now have largely been dealt with.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair Smith?
Thank you. I'd just like to note that I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Please vote. Motion passes. Item 13B, May-December calendar. Need a motion to approve that? Moved by Commissioner Kraft, supported by Ha. Please vote. It's the calendar. Hold on. Okay. Motion passes. Item 14, proclamations. Loyalty Day. Need a motion on that to send to full board?
Motion recommended to full board.
Motion by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Hall. Any discussion? All those please vote. Motion passes. Item 15 is new business. Any new business coming before the board? Any new business? Seeing no new business. Public participation. Is anyone from the public that wishes to be heard? Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Anyone from the public? Seeing no one from public participation, we'll close that. I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Haas, supported by Commissioner Dujay. Please vote.